The government, on the other hand, insists that divulging information about Ranjit Sinha's appointment, sharing information that is in the Appointments Committee of the Cabinet, those files is not in national interest. Joining me now for more on this big breaking story is Headlines Today's Ashish Maharshi, who gets you the story. Also with me is Brijesh Pandey, who's been tracking developments in the Department of Personnel and Training, and our executive editor Javed Ansari for perspective on that story. Ashish, the applicant went to the CIC. The CIC said information should be shared within 15 days. 2 months have passed. What is the government saying? Why is that information not being shared?
Well, Gaurav, if you see the 2011 order, it very clearly says that Mr. Ranjit Sinha has been sent on a compulsory wait. Now, obviously, you know that it's a black spot on someone's career. But what was behind this order, we know, nobody knows, and that is the reason that this RTI was filed. But surprisingly, whether it is the UPA government or whether it is the NDA government, nobody wants to divulge the details. Now, if you go through the order, it very clearly says the public authority is obliged to disclose the information, and the appellant is entitled to get the information. In this case, there is no other ground has been taken by the concerned public authority to deny the information.
Okay.
So obviously they have no ground to deny the information, and this order was supposed to be complied within 15 days.
Yes.
But surprisingly, neither the UPA government was ready to give the information, and with the NDA government coming in place, you remember the government came into power on the 26th. The swearing in happened on the 26th of May.
Yes.
And today is 25th of July. So it is more than 2 months that this order came, and still the government is not ready to comply on the CIC order. So
okay, why is the Department of Personnel and Training not complying with this order? Have you been able to speak to Jitendra Singh, the MOS, also in the PMO, about this, Brijesh?
But he refused to give any direct answer to this. I mean, the DOPT refused to give any answer related to this, and it's very clear. Like, I mean, you know, there was any kind of ambiguity was removed by CIC when it clearly said that none of the information is applicable in the Classified Act, and they could be made public. So it is extremely surprising as to why the DOPT is not going ahead and made a full disclosure as to why Ranjit Sinha, who is currently the director CBI and was put under wait and watch, this thing has been they have gone ahead and made him the director CBI. It is indeed very surprising, but DOPT is not forthcoming, and they are not answering this question right now. Gaurav?
Okay, in their response denying the information, the Department of Personnel and Training informed the Central Information Commissioner that this is not in national interest to divulge information. Why is it that CBI Director Ranjit Sinha, who was then Director General of the Railway Protection Force, why was he put on compulsory wait? Why is it that he was then appointed as the CBI Director? Javed, this is as embarrassing for the previous UPA government as it is for the current NDA government.
Well, indeed it is, and it just shows that once you are in power, people generally, irrespective of their political colors, they react almost in the same manner. This is yet another example of that. It is both in the interest of Mr. Ranjit Sinha as also this government that the government should come forward with whatever relevant information it has. The longer you hide, the longer you sit on it, the greater the speculation, the greater the innuendo.
The allegations against Ranjit Sinha. Now, Headlines Today is not weighing in on any side. Based on the information that the applicant is seeking, based on the information that is available now in public domain, Ashish Maharshi, the allegations against Ranjit Sinha, the CBI Director, extremely grave.
Very true, Gaurav. In fact, you know, what one has to see is when he was appointed after the complete procedure, there is a collegium which actually appoints him, and the collegium involves the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, and the leader of opposition. So here in this case, the Prime Minister was Manmohan Singh, as we know. Home Minister was Sushil Kumar Shinde, and the leader of opposition was none other than Sushma Swaraj. So the big question is, at the time, if you remember, in 2011-12,
yes,
the anti-corruption movement was at its peak.
Yes.
And you remember that Sushma Swaraj had put her foot down, and you know, they had actually got the CVC removed, PJ Thomas, because there was that case of Palmolin fraud. Now, what you know, surprisingly, how did Sushma Swaraj allow this, despite having a checkered past, despite there being an order against Mr. Ranjit Sinha, how did he get appointed? If this is to be divulged through an RTI, what is the problem that the Ministry of DOPT has, Department of Personnel and Training? It is difficult to understand because there are certain corruption charges against him. Nobody knows what these corruption charges are. But certainly, if you go through that order of 2011, he has been repatriated to the Home Ministry and had been put on compulsory wait. Why? That needs to be answered.
Yes, and why is it that the government is unwilling to share information, whether it was the previous UPA government or the current NDA government? Why are both governments unwilling to share information when it comes to the CBI director? Shiv Arora, deputy editor, also with me on the broadcast. Shiv, very clearly here, the Supreme Court's gone on record to say that the CBI is like a caged parrot. Is this very convenient both for the then UPA government and the current NDA government to have a caged parrot?
Simply doesn't fly, Gaurav. It's as Javed correctly said, it's only when you come to power that you realize what the pulls and pressures really are. But in this specific case, I think the onus is much more on the Modi government, because if clearances were given with someone like Sushma Swaraj in the know, then the country has a right to know about precisely what this information is that this RTI applicant is really looking for, because the more you try and withhold such information, as Ashish correctly pointed out, the more sense and belief there is that there is some dirt to actually hide, and with each passing day that belief will only get amplified. Let's also remember, and let's also remind our viewers, Gaurav, that the Modi government had come to power with a plank of transparency, saying that there will be no obscurity and ambiguity in terms of government processes, appointments, and duties within the operations of governance. So in this particular case, given that Ranjit Sinha is a high-profile individual, a person who's been in the news before, for controversial reasons, including the entire caged parrot affair, I think it is absolutely of public interest for the information that this RTI applicant, is seeking, for this information to come out, because otherwise the government will have to convince the person seeking this information and perhaps everybody else that if such information comes out, it wouldn't be in the national interest, but because at this stage it doesn't appear possibly why such information should really be withheld.
Okay, I want to bring that bigger issue, the allegation of corruption. A man is appointed as the director of Central Bureau of Investigation, and here is the country's principal watchdog to keep an eye on corrupt activities, especially in the government, and the man at the helm of affairs is facing serious charges, as Ashish Maharshi points out. Ashish, does the applicant have details of the kind of allegations that CBI director Ranjit Sinha faced while he was DGRPF?
Well, the only thing that this person has in hand is the order of 2011, which very clearly says that he has been repatriated. But now this issue, this order that we have in our copy, this is a CIC order. CIC is a quasi-judicial body, and surprisingly, if the government is not accepting the CIC order, it is basically you are actually not following the court order. So this is something very, very serious, that the government, the order has been sent to the government, the Department of Personnel and DOPT, Department of Personnel and Training, and still, if the order is not being followed by the government, it means that you are not obliging to the order of the court, which is very, very serious.
Yes. And Javed, conveniently, this would suit both the UPA government. It must have suited the UPA government in the past and the current NDA government presently to have a CBI director who has a sword of Damocles hanging over his head.
Well, ostensibly so. Why else would a government sit on such sensitive information? If, like Shiv was saying, and if, like everybody else is saying, if there is nothing to hide, then why fear it? And what is the huge national security angle which will get compromised if such information is brought forth? If Mr. Ranjit Sinha is innocent, if these charges were unfounded, all to his good if the truth comes out. Or else, like I said earlier, this innuendo and speculation will continue.
Innuendos and speculation, is it all just innuendos and speculation, Brijesh? The CIC order, the government in its response says if we were to divulge this information, the information that was given to the Appointments Committee of the Cabinet. Of course, that time the Prime Minister was Dr. Manmohan Singh. That time the Home Minister was Sushil Kumar Shinde. The Leader of Opposition that time was Sushma Swaraj. They all went through all the information, and yet CBI Director, Ranjit Sinha was appointed as the CBI Director. Do we have details of the kind of allegations he faced and whether he was exonerated in those allegations?
Well, Gaurav, nobody knows, and that is the biggest tragedy of the whole sequence of events. Because had it been any information related to matters of great national security, then then the government should have, the CIC would have been well within its rights to deny it. But with the CIC is saying that the information can be made public and should immediately be made public within 15 days, it puts the BJP government in a slightly embarrassing position. Because if you remember, in the last CVC episode, Sushma Swaraj put her foot down and made her displeasure quite known quite clearly to everybody concerned. So the only logical deduction which can be withdrawn is that apart from embarrassing the Congress government, it is also going to embarrass the Leader of Opposition, which is
the current External Affairs Minister. And the applicant, is the government going to court against the CIC order? What does the government intend to do, Ashish?
Well, there are two options left with the government. Either they have to comply with the order, which they have not. Else they go to the court, the higher court, the high court, and take a stay. But for that, the lawyer for the applicant has filed a caveat suggesting that they should be heard before passing any order. So the government is either contemplating challenging the CIC order in the high court, else they have to give the details.